Hey there, wizards. How's it going? Hey, are you just arriving here at the Caldeiraofurado? So stop being a muggle, subscribe, and enable notifications to stay updated here. And don't forget that you can become a member here at the Caldeiraofurado and get access to exclusive benefits, like badges that appear next to your name and emojis for you to use in the comments here on the episodes. You can highlight your comment with the thanks button or send questions to Papo Furado using the link in the description or the QR code on screen. In 2016, to the delight of many fans, a story from the wizarding world of Harry Potter hit theaters, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. However, this joy was short-lived, because enough time has passed for us to admit that the Fantastic Beasts saga, as cool as it was, ended up not delivering the expected results and faded into obscurity. And that's sad, because no matter how many mistakes and problems the movies might have, they're actually really cool. I really like Fantastic Beasts. I have a lot of affection for these movies, even though there are things I don't like and decisions I thought were bad. After the moments of excitement with the release of the movies, that hype, that urge to understand, to see how everything fit together and rewatching the movies several times, I ended up having a few different impressions. It's not that I completely changed my opinion about the movies. I still like Fantastic Beasts. I still think it deserved a proper ending to the story. But inevitably, there are things that when you look back after the hype has passed, you might end up seeing differently. That's why now I'm bringing the segment Problems and Flaws in Fantastic Beasts. There will be 3 episodes, one for each movie: Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, The Crimes of Grindelwald, and The Secrets of Dumbledore. What I'm going to talk about in these episodes isn't really about, what I liked or didn't like in the story. These are insights I had about why things ended up going off track during that time. In my opinion, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them's first major mistake was wanting to explore the global Wizarding War story indirectly, and not selling that. Everything starts in a very subtle way. We see the news, the way things are happening in the background of the story. But the protagonist is Newt, and the main arc involves him and the search for the magical creatures that escape from the suitcase. And with all the sincerity in the world, as a fan, I don't think it's bad that the story has this background of the global war. I think it was a mistake, but not a bad stuff. I'm not sure if you'll understand my reasoning here. It's cool when Dumbledore is mentioned in the movie. Everyone went crazy about it in the trailer. When we see that Grindelwald was a growing threat in the wizarding world. And all of this is happening in the background while Newt is there, looking for his creatures and all. So, for me, that's cool. But why was it a mistake from a marketing point of view? When they asked J.K. Rowling about why the movie is called Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and the story isn't just about Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, she replied that the title had an ambiguity, because in the original, Fantastic Beasts means fantastic creatures, fantastic beasts, and this beasts, fantastic beasts. It didn't refer only to magical creatures, but also to the beasts that people have inside them and the beasts they can become. How can they be as beastly and monstrous as any creature? There's even a part where Newt says that his creatures were surrounded by the worst kind of species that existed, which were humans. So, the title carried that ambiguity. It makes sense in this context, it makes sense. Some people bought it, not everyone did, so do you understand what I'm trying to point out as a mistake in this case? It's not that the story is bad, it's not that it's not cool, it's nothing like that, but it was a mistake to use this story to tell another story and not sell that other story. Also, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them has nothing to do with what happened and wouldn't resemble the real events. The idea was a mockumentary, right? About the wizarding world there. It's like a National Geographic show, but focused on the wizarding world. Talking about Newt Scamander and his adventures with magical creatures. It was something along those lines. But then J.K. Rowling saw at this point in the story an opportunity to tell about this period of global war, which involved Grindelwald and Dumbledore. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them premiered in theaters. It had a decent box office performance, considering it's a production from the wizarding world, right? Compared to the Harry Potter movies, which made $800 million, but things wouldn't stay that way. Revenue just kept dropping. So for me, the first big marketing mistake of Fantastic Beasts was to approach one theme and sell another. We see in the first movie that it's not really like that. In the first movie, Newt and the creatures arc are prominent, but then that disappears. Is it cool? Is it really cool to see the story? I repeat, it's really cool to see Dumbledore being mentioned, the atmosphere in the wizarding world at that time with Grindelwald. It's really cool. It's really cool. But they didn't sell it that way, and that's where the mistake comes in, you know? Another problem that happened in Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them was some of the inconsistencies with the pre-established Harry Potter universe. For example, in the book Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, which is not the plot of the movie, it's the book that Newt Scamander publishes, and the movie has the same name as the book, but the movie is not an adaptation of that book. In that book, in the preface, it says that the character graduated from Hogwarts, right? That he graduated from Hogwarts and so on, and it tells a bit about Newt's life. When the movie Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them was released, the book was re-released, a current edition, where the part that said he graduated from Hogwarts was removed. And they even add a few things there, saying that some files became known to the public that they were under the secrecy of the Ministry of Magic. Anyway, the author found a way to try to explain that, right? That's what they call a retcon, which means redoing or changing what's already been done. She put in the book Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them the new creatures that were created for this movie, and she also removed the information that Newt had graduated from Hogwarts and added these details that things were under secrecy from the Ministry of Magic under confidentiality, and that over the years Newt would be allowed to reveal more, right? Which would be according to the release of the movies. And so it's very hard to undo information that has been circulating on the internet for so long. Because Harry Potter, the world of Harry Potter is very famous, right? It's really big. So you see on the internet, you get that little book from 2001, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, the one with the red cover. You go there for some information, but when you watch the movie later, you get different information. Maybe you'll see the new version of the book has another version, which is now based on the movie. It becomes confusing. It creates an inconsistency that ends up causing friction, and there are fans who don't like it. Some other small inconsistency problems with the pre-established universe also haunted Fantastic Beasts. When the movie came out, many fans asked why Newt had such difficulty capturing the creatures. If he could use a summoning spell, and then J.K. Rowling explained that the summoning spell couldn't be used on creatures, it wouldn't work on creatures. But in the 5th Harry Potter book, we actually have examples of this happening, of the summoning spell being used on creatures. Harry uses Accio on the Toad anyway. And in the movie itself, Newt uses Accio on the Niffler, but in the movie, he doesn't actually use Accio on the Niffler itself. He uses it on the jewels that the Niffler was holding. And so, in the scene where the Niffler is being pulled, what's actually being pulled are the jewels. But since they were inside the Niffler's pocket, that little pouch of his, he's pulled along with them. Okay, that's the explanation of what happens. Yeah, it goes against what's been established, yes, but then we get to the second movie, The Crimes of Grindelwald. You can't use Accio on a creature, but Newt actually says Accio Niffler when he wants to summon the Niffler from the suitcase. Niffler is Pelusio, right? Accio Niffler, get it? The information is inconsistent. At one point they say it's X, then they say it's Y, then they say it's Z. So these inconsistencies in information do end up weakening things. Another big problem with Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them is the script, even though the story is cool. And I'm gonna keep insisting that I like the movies, that I think they're cool. Otherwise, people twist things around later. They're saying I called the videos cool when I released them, but now I don't. Those are two different things. I'm analyzing the mistakes here from a market perspective, explaining why, in my view, the movie ended up having these problems. I've seen many people mention the things I'm talking about here. At the time, I saw a lot of critics saying the same thing, so these are things that really had an impact on the development of the movies. Anyway, the Fantastic Beasts script. It has some convenience issues, meaning things that are resolved in a very easy way, but that go against what's already been established. I think one of the biggest examples in the Fantastic Beasts movie of this is the way Grindelwald is captured at the end of the movie. Not Grindelwald being captured, but the way he is captured. We're discussing the most dangerous and powerful wizard of that era. He shows at several moments, even while disguised, how extremely powerful he was. He does magic without a wand and kills multiple aurors at once. And then at the end, after Credency is bombarded by the Aurors and apparently dies, Grindelwald, still disguised as Graves, he kind of rebels, saying he wouldn't submit to that anymore and just walks away. But then the Aurors put up a barrier so he can't escape. And they just start casting several spells at him, which he deflects all of them, keeps deflecting many of the spells and casting them back at the Aurors. But Grindelwald couldn't just apparate out of there. He could, because he apparates at several moments inside that dome, that barrier, inside the station itself. Another thing, he could very well take them all down right there with a wave of his wand, just like he did at the beginning of the movie. So he ends up being captured by Newt and Tina because he was distracted. But we're talking about Grindelwald here, not just any wizard. And look, I really like this scene. I think it's awesome how Graves fights back and everything. I think it's really cool. But in the script, this happened way too easily, you know? The guy was highly wanted, everyone was after him, he was undercover and powerful, yet he gets caught in such a silly way. So, this fits into that aspect of script convenience that I'm talking about. And man, I think this part could have been way better. It had the potential to be much better. But what it seemed like is that, just like Newt, he's the protagonist of the movie. He needs to have an active role in this, you know, he needs to have an active role. So, they have him capturing Grindelwald at that moment there because he was distracted. We can even understand Tina because she was an Auror. Her specialty was capturing dark wizards. Not underestimating Newt, he's amazing and an awesome character. The first Fantastic Beasts script is cool, right? It has a clear script with a defined beginning, middle, and end. But this problem of convenience, of how easy it is to solve the problem there, ended up for me taking away a bit of the value. You know about the script, Kako? Do you really hate that scene from Fantastic Beasts? No, I still think it's a cool scene. Also, I'm sure some people will want to argue with me. And that's okay. Maybe one of the most sensitive points regarding Fantastic Beasts was the casting of Johnny Depp. Man, when someone is involved in a controversy like Johnny Depp was, man, it's not good to have a name like that involved in a production. It's not good. It's definitely not good. And any studio agrees with that. That's why they always try to distance themselves from that kind of thing. I'm not discussing who's right or wrong, who hit or got hit, or who set it up or didn't. I'm just saying that hiring Johnny Depp in this context after going through a whole process of alleged aggression against a woman, it was definitely a controversy and something that divided a lot of people at the time. Many fans called for a boycott, saying that Johnny Depp wasn't Grindelwald, that they didn't want him in the movie, but he stayed in the movie anyway. The controversies kept happening, and the trials kept going on. J.K. Rowling even defended him because according to what she had seen, she was sure that Johnny Depp was innocent. Anyway, who's right or wrong doesn't matter for this episode. What we're talking about are the problems in Fantastic Beasts, and this was definitely one of them. So much so that he did the entire second movie, and in the third, he filmed the first scenes and was simply fired. He was fired, reportedly without J.K. Rowling's permission. She wasn't even aware of it. It wasn't a unanimous decision, it was kind of a unilateral thing, you know, and then he just stayed there, right? In Crimes of Grindelwald, which mainly focused on him, the box office dropped, right? It dropped by almost more than $180 million, solely and exclusively because of his casting. No, it wasn't just because of that. There were other problems, but we'll talk about those in the Crimes of Grindelwald episode, right? This one's about Fantastic Beasts and where to find them. But since Johnny Depp's role in the first movie was smaller, it was pretty minor, so the impact wasn't that big, right? So there were some people who did protest against it, who were against it, and some people who were in favor. That typical internet thing where one side is always wrong and the other is always right. And there's no conversation, no talking, everyone insulting each other, fighting, offending each other. It was total chaos. But they still kept Depp in the cast, so it's not Johnny Depp's fault that the movie went through the problems it did. It's a mix of factors, but there's no denying that controversies cause wear and tear. The film's production, marketing, and sales all cause undeniable wear and tear. Lastly, what I see as a big issue with Fantastic Beasts isn't really a problem with the movie itself, right? It's not a script problem or anything like that, but a choice. I think both J.K. Rowling and Warner bit off more than they could chew. Have you heard the saying about biting off more than you can chew or taking on more than you can handle? So, they wanted to bite off a bigger piece than they could handle. Initially, Fantastic Beasts, right? It was supposed to be a trilogy. First it was going to be a documentary, then the story changed. Oh no, it's not going to be a documentary, it's going to be this. Newt's story was set during this era, featuring a global war, Dumbledore, and Grindelwald. It was planned as a trilogy. 3 movies. Then what? Before the release of the first movie, J.K. Rowling and Warner announced that actually there would be 5 movies. That the story they wanted to tell wouldn't fit in 3, so it would be 5. As a fan, I was completely happy. I even have a video from that time where I'm all excited. Wow, it's going to be 5 movies. That's so cool. That's awesome. And to be honest, I'm still waiting for the conclusion even today. I still hope for a 4th and 5th movie, even if it's unrealistic. But man, I think that was biting off more than they could chew. They could have released 3 movies, and I don't know, they could even say there won't be 5 movies. But after the release, like, of the first 2, maybe, you know? Like, or they could release the 3, and then in the 3rd one, it wouldn't conclude. They'd say, here's the news, there will be 2 more movies, or maybe 3 Fantastic Beasts films, right? They're setting up a pre-global war, right? What was happening during that time, combining those stories. So, what next? The other 2 movies would be released directly as Global War, focusing on Dumbledore and Grindelwald. So, there would be 5 movies, starting with Fantastic Beasts. Things would change and move forward. I understand that it was risky, it was a different strategy that could go really wrong, but still going wrong just for the sake of going wrong. Didn't Fantastic Beasts already do that? So I'm sure it would bring much more public interest to see the story of Dumbledore against Grindelwald itself than to see Newt's story, you know? I'll say it again, even though I think Fantastic Beasts is really cool, I really like Newt, I like the characters from Fantastic Beasts. I think that generating such great interest for Harry Potter fans would be with a big name from the Harry Potter universe, which is Dumbledore. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them made $800 million at the box office, but it didn't meet expectations. Because, right? It was the Wizarding World's return to movies since the last film in 2011, right? Deathly Hallows Part 2 surpassed $1 billion, so more was expected since it marked the Wizarding World's return. And I dare say that many people went to watch it because of that. In fact, most people went to watch it because it was something related to Harry Potter, because it was something from the world of Harry Potter. So most people went there. They took one look and, like, I didn't like it. It didn't really appeal to me, you know, because of some of those issues and stuff, of not really identifying with Newt as the main character. Anyway, Harry Potter was a phenomenon of the previous decade, right? From 2000 to 2010, Harry Potter was a phenomenon in books and movies. So, man, bringing Fantastic Beasts was something big, right? There was this whole idea of expansion. We had the texts about magic in North America, really cool. Texts about other schools around the world. The idea of traveling the world with Fantastic Beasts. That was really cool. Really, really cool. But the way they ended up exploring that, the path they took. Then the pandemic came. External factors came, but that's a topic for other episodes, not for this one, right? 2016, we're discussing Fantastic Beasts, and while several factors played a role, I believe this was the major final mistake of the series. They tried to bite off more than they could chew. For me, those were the main ones. The choice of the Fantastic Beasts theme, and having the story in the background, not selling the story they really wanted. Inconsistencies with the established universe and controversies like those around Johnny Depp's casting. The convenience, the ease of some things in the script, right? The way problems are solved in the script. And that bite there, bigger than they could handle. Actually, I don't even doubt that they had the ability to make all 5 movies, to do something cool. But they rushed it, that's the thing. I think it was rushed, and we know that, right guys? Nowadays, on the internet, it doesn't matter if what people are saying is a lie, as long as it validates the point they're trying to make, the person is trying to make. There will be people who will buy it, who will publish it, who will share it, and no matter how much you say, look, it's not like that and bring proof, the person just won't care, you know? Like, no, I've already done what I wanted, which was to spread this thing here. And then people keep saying something so much that it ends up becoming true, you know? Lies and misinformation eventually become accepted as truth, causing a lot of trouble. Fantastic Beasts. Why did big pages link news like that? J.K. Rowling reveals X thing, and man, she hadn't revealed anything. These were things that were already on Pottermore, which have been there since 2011 in texts she had already written, and that had already been published. And then people would make some really mean headlines like, oh, Jake Rowling reveals where Hogwarts students used to poop before toilets existed. Jake Rowling reveals there are actually 2 Harry Potters. Like, a bunch of stuff, a bunch of stuff. Like, she woke up that morning and just said on Twitter, look, Harry Potter used to poop on the floor, which wasn't true. Like, that kind of stuff didn't happen. The texts had been available there for a long time, talking about things, aspects, and curiosities of the wizarding world as a way to expand the universe. And then what did that cause? Wow, that makes no sense. Look at that. They're ruining Harry Potter. Wow, they're ruining it. Look at Fantastic Beasts. It's going to suck because look, they're changing everything. They're doing a bunch of different things. So that's a big problem too. That's out of line, right? Is the Fantastic Beasts part, is the production side, but I think there should be better management of these things. It was the audience there, twisting things, making up a bunch of stuff, that also caused a lot of harm. But so, tell me here, do you like Fantastic Beasts? Do you think Fantastic Beasts was treated unfairly? Would you like to see the conclusion of Fantastic Beasts? I would really like to see the conclusion. Even if they didn't make 5 movies, what if they just made a 4th one to wrap it up there? Because look, I think it's really unfair that Fantastic Beasts didn't continue. And I think it's even more unfair, all this silence, right? All this silence. Because after the 3rd movie came out, it's like Fantastic Beasts never even existed. We didn't hear from anyone. Not Warner, not J.K. Rowling. No one mentioned the movie. I think that's disrespectful. This absurd silence is disrespectful. Acting like the movie and franchise don't exist. Letting it fall into oblivion and seeing if people will stop talking and let the dust settle. But tell me, what do you think? Do you like it? Don't like it? Did you think it was kind of weak, didn't you? The comment section is open. Feel free to share your opinion here, always respectfully and politely. See you next episode of the Caldeiraofurado. Until then, mischief managed.